The famous phrase boogity 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 has been uttered for the final time as Darrell Waltrip commentated his final NASCAR Cup Series race last weekend at Sonoma. Not only did it end an era in the Fox Sports booth, but it will likely end a strong relationship with NASCAR since the early 1970s. The driver self-proclaimed Jaws as one of the more predominant characters through the 7 decades of NASCAR stock car racing and has truly made a positive impact on the sport. In fact, we had 3 throwback paint schemes for the twists and turns of Sonoma Raceway honoring the NASCAR legend. David Reagan, a Southern driver like Darrell Waltrip, sported a red and silver design inspired by his 1997 Parts America scheme with a Thanks DW logo on the hood. The hood placement is very special as it features the boogity 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 phrase with a picture of the 72-year-old commentator taking center. Matt DiBenedetto also paid tribute to Darrell Waltrip as his Procore Toyota paid tribute to DW's first career win at the Nashville Speedway. The orange and blue looks absolutely incredible, and the font, coloring, and the style are well represented, and it looks better than the throwback done by the 17 team done a few seasons ago. Levine Family Racing's throwback was a no-brainer as they get points for originality compared to the final 2 designs. D Burrito was able to give DW a strong run, finishing 4th after 90 laps in wine country. Meanwhile, the 17 of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. also originally had a fresh design as the black and red Western Auto Parts colors graced his Ford Mustang during the race. Now, if you remember back to 2017, this design was replicated at the Southern 500 that year. The major problem with that car, however, was that Fifth Third Bank used its personal colors instead of the recognizable look from the late 1990s. It was a major flop with the blue and green, and I'm glad Roush Fenway Racing and Fastenal reversed the trends and paid tribute to DW in this great way. Meanwhile, Denny Hamlin literally has the same paint scheme as Ricky Stenhouse, except the red is replaced with orange, which looks more realistic with the original car. Thank goodness this is Denny Hamlin's car for the Southern 500, as this car along with Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s scheme would have created an eyesore for spotters in the grandstands.
Whoa. What the?
I'm Spider-Man. I need you to come with me.
Who the heck are you?
I just told you that. Listen, I'm from the future.
How dare you point at me?
You were pointing first.
Rude to point.
Before we analyze the career of good old DW, make sure to become a bunch of all-stars by liking the video, subscribing, and smashing the bell icon for new content here on the channel. It's always great to keep your foot in it, and by staying up to date, you won't miss any of the action in the coming months. And now, it's time to salute a NASCAR icon. From day one, the Owensboro, Kentucky native had a passion for racing, driving go-karts at the young age of 12. As a teenager, he would often work in the garage with his father as they built a 1936 Chevrolet Coupe which DW would race over the next few seasons. He took his talents to both asphalt and dirt, racing in the small southern tracks of Whitesville, Ellis, and eventually the famed Fairgrounds Speedway in Nashville. This is where he would shine on the pavement, winning 2 local championships in 1970 and 1973. This was years before NASCAR's lower divisions were put into place, so the local tracks were a great way to cut your teeth in the business. So after years of racing on the lower scale, the elder Waltrip would advance to the NASCAR Cup Series after buying a 1969 Mercury Cyclone from Holman Moody. His cars were most certainly competition proven, winning 2 championships with the Silver Fox, David Pearson. His first race was at Talladega, where he would lead the race, but unfortunately he would climax out of the race, finishing a disappointing 38th place at the end of the day. However, Darrell Waltrip just wanted to go fast, and there were no hard feelings after he led a majority of the race from the front. Over the next 4 seasons, however, Darrell Waltrip Motorsports developed its performance to contention as the 95 car earned 16 top 5s, 27 top 10 finishes, and placed 7th in the points driving and operating his own equipment. During that tenure, Waltrip would grab the W at the Nashville Speedway as he led 147 laps en route to taking the Terminal Transport Chevrolet to victory lane. A few weeks later, Darrell Waltrip would finally get his big break in the NASCAR garage as Donnie Allison was fired mid-season. DeGard Motorsports wanted some young blood behind the wheel of its Chevrolet Monte Carlo, and he was signed to a multi-year contract to drive the number 88 car with primary sponsor Gatorade. Over the next 5.5 years, the switch to a solid team would morph DW as a top contender against the competition. He would win 2 races before his breakout campaign in 1977 as Darrell grabbed 6 checkered flags, 16 top 5s, 24 top 10 finishes, and placed 4th in the season's standings. That spark resulted in the remainder of his tenure going down as a success, scoring 18 wins, 54 top 5 finishes, and he placed in the top 5 in the championship all 3 seasons. Some of his most notable wins included back-to-back World 600 victories in 1978 and 1979 and his victory in the Winston 500 during 1977. One thing that was lacking, however, was a points championship. Darrell Waltrip would win races, but his character and aggressiveness on the track hurt him when the Winston Trophy was hoisted at Riverside. His character back in the day closely resembles Ricky Bobby in Talladega Nights, as he would do anything to come first on a weekly basis. In terms of capturing a championship, the lack of smart decision-making caused him to come up short in that department. For the 1981 season, Darrell Waltrip left DeGar to partner with one of NASCAR's most recognizable faces, Junior Johnson. The 34-year-old at the time would get jacked up on Mountain Dew driving the green and black red Buick with head crew chief Tim Brewer calling the shots. The combination blended well as the 11 car won 12 races, including 4 straight at Martinsville, North Wilkesboro, Charlotte, and Rockingham. He ended the campaign with 21 top 5s, 25 top 10 finishes, and an average finish of 7.3. And most importantly, his first NASCAR Cup Series championship. Despite Tim Brewer departing, Jeff Hammond settled in as the new crew chief in 1982, which started not only a decade relationship on the track, but a lasting friendship that transitioned into their second careers on television. While the 11 was a bit inconsistent, 12 more victories on the season were enough to capture his second title at Riverside, finishing 72 points ahead of Bobby Allison. As the Pepsi Challenger transitioned into the Red Budweiser 11, the success with Junior Johnson continued going strong. The next 4 seasons were all competitive as he netted 19 victories and another championship in 1985. This third championship marked the third in 5 seasons, which I would consider this as the DW era here in the 1980s. Unfortunately, Dale Earnhardt and the Black number 3 dominated the late 1980s and into the 1990s, essentially killing all the reminiscence of this era. After getting rejected a higher salary, the Darrell Waltrip dynasty at Junior Johnson's race team ended in 1986. This ended one of the most successful driver-owner tenures in the sport, and the two remain great friends to this day. The Tide Ride was the next destination for DW, as he would partner with Rick Hendrick for the next 4 campaigns. The 17 was a championship contender during that timeline, but the most important accomplishment came at the 1989 Daytona 500. This race had eluded the Southern native for the last 2 decades, and he longed to hoist the Harley J. Earl Trophy at this stage of his career. Luckily, on that fateful day in February, that dream would come full circle. DW and Jeff Hammond orchestrated a strategy to draft off of other vehicles, which caused them to save fuel and make less pit stops during the race. This gave him his first win during the event and created one of the most cringiest enjoyable celebrations with the Icky Shuffle. Darrell Waltrip stayed competitive inside the sport until 1992, where he won his final race at Darlington. This was the era of the Parts America Chevrolet, which was indeed funded and operated by DW himself. Unfortunately, his performance broke down and sputtered all the way towards the team's closure in 1998, as by the end of his tenure, he was nothing but a field filler well outside the top 20 in points. A decade later, he admitted that he operated the team like a driver instead of an owner, which caused the faltering of his race team. For the final 2 seasons of his career, DW drove the '66 Kmart Ford Taurus for Carter Haas Motorsports. He greatly struggled behind the wheel, netting 0 top 5, 0 top 10 finishes, and finishing outside the top 35 in both campaigns. Darrell Waltrip's NASCAR Cup Series career ended on a sour note, finishing 34th in his final race at Atlanta. In the long run, however, the near 3-decade career was nothing to be ashamed of. His final statistics saw him earn 84 wins, 276 top 5s, 390 top 10 finishes, and 3 elusive championships to his name. Not to mention, he was a king at Bristol, North Wilkesboro, and Martinsville, as all 3 tracks saw win totals in the double digits from DW. These achievements on the track granted him a Blue Jacket in 2012, as he was inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte. With that said, his relationship with NASCAR was far from over, and in fact, it was just the dawn of a new era. As the sport was blooming, NASCAR CEO at the time, Bill France Jr., struck a massive TV networks deal with both Fox and NBC. The deal was a game changer, and as part of a new era, Darrell Waltrip signed with Fox to become a commentator. He would join color commentator Mike Joy and retired crew chief Larry McReynolds, as the 3-man booth would paint the network's landscape of the mid-2000s and early 2010s. His first race in the broadcast booth was a special one, as he was on the call when Michael Waltrip broke his decade-long futility by winning the Great American Race. The raw emotion of seeing his little brother take the checkered flag ranks as one of the sport's most recognizable commentating moments. Unfortunately, it is most known as the triumph in the midst of tragedy, as Dale Earnhardt suffered a fatal hit to damper the mood of the win. In the blink of an eye, a strong debut race for DW in the booth was ruined with the loss of NASCAR's Intimidator, a true legend of the sport. Despite a first race in sorrow, the show went on and Darrell Waltrip continued his exceptional broadcasting of the action on the track. Over the next 19 years, he lent the voice to some of the most thrilling moments in NASCAR history, and here are a few of those notable calls from the booth.
Craven! Oh, whoa, guys, whoa, whoa. Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. I have never seen anything like that in my life. Ooh, man, that was tight off turn 2. He's got him. I believe he's got him this time. Oh, he turned him. No. Oh, he turned him. No. No. There's still 3. He's got him. He's got him. Oh, there we go.
Keep your foot in it.
Keep your foot in it.
Still
Keep your foot in it. How'd they go to all missing? Wow. 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 But that 18 is good on the top, and he blocks him. Oh, he put a block on him. He put him in the wall. He put him in the wall. And Dale Jr. is scooting away. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, he's slowing, isn't he?
150,000 people on their feet.
Jr. is slowing. He's out of fuel. He's out of gas. I think he might have him. He's got the momentum. Don't wreck. They touch. They touch. They're sliding. They're banging. Larson got him.
Oh my goodness.
Are you kidding me? Got him.
That was amazing.
In addition, the thing that made DW an iconic commentator over the past 2 decades was his passion for the sport as well as his driver insight. In a way, Darrell Waltrip is the super invested, die-hard NASCAR fan on the Fox team, and he isn't afraid to root for a few of his good buddies and provide criticism for poor decisions. There are past instances where he was a critic of the Car of Tomorrow package as well as the conduct of hard racing. He also noted the significance of the Hans device in 2001, pushing for more drivers and NASCAR to enforce the next support system. Now sure, many despise him, but to a good 70% of the fan base, he speaks for the common fan who loves some good old beating and banging and a thrilling event. While Jeff Gordon is a better commentator with his understanding and knowledge of the Gen 6 cars, DW carried his own persona that mixed expertise and character really well on a weekly occurrence. So as Darrell Waltrip says goodbye to NASCAR, you have to respect his passion and loyalty that helped him grow the sport stronger. To many of his hardcore fans, he was a character on the track who worked hard, made some daring moves, and competed for all the wins and trophies to cement his success on the speedway. For myself and many of the newer generation fans, he crossed over the blue-collar days of the 1970s into a changing era of NASCAR, and his love for the competition made him a fun figure in the press box. Not many people make a long-lasting impact in this sport of NASCAR, as many drivers, crew chiefs, and commentators float around for 5 years and quietly get pushed out. Meanwhile, DW has flourished in 2 different paths and has been a notable figure for 6 decades within our great sport. Who knows what opportunities are on the horizon, but if this is it, thank you Darrell Waltrip for providing childhood memories from the booth and always carrying a smile on your face when tides were tough. Enjoy your retirement. So anyways, this is NRF signing out, and just remember, life's a beach and then you drive.